dirty, horrible, nasty, brush. Not the lovely master, but absolutely fine. Everyone's here, and now he learns his two pincers, yes.
Welcome, Reaper fans. Today we have another huge miniature. This is Khanjira. This is quite an old miniature now from Reaper. It's, to my mind, one of the dinosaur type miniatures. It's massive. It's in the original bones, so I can't use a primer coat on this one. I'm going to have to hand paint the whole miniature for the primer coat, which will be in green. Now, this miniature I have put together, and it had quite a few gaps in the certain areas on the back. So I've used green stuff, a two-part mix, to fill in the larger gaps, and I've used my Vallejo putty to fill in the smaller gaps around the miniature, as you can see just there. This is a huge beast of a mini. So the first thing I'm going to do is he's stuck to a 160mm base boss base. I am going to add some PVA glue to the base, and I'm going to use a nice large gravels from the beaches of Orkney, and I'm going to add these to the base. So I'll come back once I've glued all the pieces to the base and I've given him his undercoat, and then we'll get cracking with this absolutely fantastic miniature. I'll just give you a quick 360. It's a beast of a mini, this one. Beast. And it's heavy. There we go. Okay, I'll come back once I've got the primer coat done. The PVA glue I use is, there's no special brand. I use this one. It's from my local craft store, and it cost me about £2 for this quite large 500ml tub of PVA glue. So it's not a case of you have to buy the best brands or anything. Any PVA glue will really do the job that you want for your bases. Okay then, I have added my primer coats. I've used 2 coats of Wilderness Green by MSP, which is a lovely dark green, and I've used Stone Grey for my base. These are paints from MSP. As you can see, it's nice even coverage on both. Later on I will add a black ink wash to all the base, ready for the dry brushing. Now for the main miniature I'm going for greens, so it's all going to be dry brush now. Now I'm using Cat's Eye Green as my first dry brush, and then highlight with Dungeon Slime for my second highlight with my dry brushing. I'm going to be using a nice huge brush by Army Painter. This is their terrain brush, and I use it for most of my large miniatures for dry brushing, and it's a great brush, a fantastic brush for dry brushing. So I am going to get on with my dry brushing, and I will do this with you together right now. Okay, so I am going straight into the Cat's Eye Green, get the paint on the brush and take most of it off on your tissue, and here we go. I'm doing the whole miniature because all I would need to do to begin with is get those details popping on the mini. Just want to have some color variation in the whole miniature so you can see what's going on with the mini. God, I can't speak today. Don't worry about making a mess, because it's all part of doing this miniature. Everything can sometimes look messy to begin with, and it can put you off sometimes. You try to get the paint on, and it's like, no, that doesn't look right, that doesn't look right. But what happens is it's all part of how we want the miniature to look. We just want to get the paint on And as you add more dry brushing and layers to the actual miniature, all of a sudden it works, it comes together. So don't be scared to get your paint on and experiment with different things, because the key to painting is just enjoy yourself and have, just have fun. If you stress too much about the paint and making a mess, it'll put you off doing another miniature. So what we do is we just keep going. Just don't give up. Never give up on what you're doing. It can be difficult. It does take many years to build up a good way to paint. We're all different. Everybody has a different technique. My techniques might be awful to some of you, and to others you think, oh my god, it's amazing, how does he do that? But a lot of you will be like, oh my god, what is he doing that for? That's crazy. I do this because this is the way I paint, and I thoroughly enjoy the way I paint. And if you enjoy what you do, then you're doing it right. So if anybody says to you, oh, that's awful, you don't paint that way, you can't do it that way, well, it doesn't matter. If you're getting the colour on, if your miniature comes out the way you want, then you're doing it correctly. There are certain ways to do certain things, but what my point is, if you're painting a miniature and you're enjoying it the way you paint it, then damn it, you do it that way. You just enjoy yourself. There is no way I am going to take abuse by anybody telling me, oh, you're not supposed to do it that way. No, you just do it the way you do it. Just enjoy yourself. That's all it's about. It's a hobby. It's great fun. And you learn as you paint. You get faster at painting miniatures as you paint. The more you paint, the better you get. Painting miniatures isn't about painting one miniature and you're a professional. It will never happen. It takes time to learn how to build up your skills and learn the colours and how the colours will mix, how the colours will look on your miniatures, shading. This all takes time. You just need to work with the miniature, work with the paints you have, and find out what works best for you. I found dry brushing my miniatures and then highlighting works best for me. I did my painting in college and I worked with charcoals and pastels, and all my work was always in large quantities with large brushes, and that's what I fell in love with. So for me, the dry brushing techniques doing a miniature just worked perfect for me, and as you can see, it works on my miniatures. So what you do is you just enjoy what you're doing, and this is what I do. And as you can see, the miniature is already starting to pop with detail and colour. We're going around all the scales, leaving that dark colour as you're shading on the back. Absolutely beautiful. We're working on the bone shields, as I call it, from the bottom there, just at the base. So there we go. Just pick out the highest areas, like I told you before, where the light would probably shine down on the miniature. Okay, so I'm going to go straight into the dungeon slime now, taking off the excess paint, and again going over those areas that I need highlighting. There we go, that's lovely. Get a lovely free tone of green going all the way up the scales. Absolutely beautiful. And you'll be amazed how quickly you can get a decent miniature painted, because a lot of people, including myself, you see these huge miniatures and you're like, oh my god, I'll leave that for next week. Oh no. But once you get started and you start dry brushing your minis like I'm doing here, it's done in a day. It's done in half a day. And this is what I do. I want my miniatures ready for the tabletop. Yes, they go in the display cabinet as well, but my aim is to get as many of my miniatures painted as possible so I can have them in game. This is my thing. I want to play with my miniatures. Yes, you can call me a big boy, I don't care. I want to play with my miniatures, and I want to play in my games. I want to have painted miniatures. If I painted every single miniature to a showcase standard, I would probably I'd have about 10 miniatures done in a year. So I try to paint all my miniatures to an acceptable tabletop standard, and that way I get to play with my minis in game, in colour, and that's what I'm after. I want my minis on my tabletop, ready for battle. Right, I'm just going to go over these spines. So we're working along the spines now. Let's get some paint on there. This is great. This is good. And the miniature is already transforming. All the colours are popping, and the detail is coming out nicely. Remember as well, once you get all your dry brushing done, that's when you add a nice ink wash too. Ink washes take away any chalkiness from the dry brushing, and that's why having an ink wash over your dry brushing is really important, because it helps blend the dry brushing into the miniature and helps with all the paint settling onto the miniature. And once the ink wash is on, and then we do the highlighting of the miniature. So this part is the fun part where you're just getting all the paint on and bringing out the detail of the miniature with your dry brushing. And as you can see, it's starting to look great already. Like I say, certain areas you want to start picking out the colours for light source. Highest areas, of course, get more. There we go. Okay, this is about ready. Now I will be giving this probably a brown ink wash, and I will give the base a nice black ink wash, and then I will come back and show you how we have got on and where we go from there. But as you can see, just by using those two colours on top of that dark green, it's given a lovely colour to the whole miniature, and the highlights are already popping. Beautiful. Simple as that. Okay, I just wanted to show you a quick 360 of the miniature finished with all my dry brushing before I added the ink washes. You know, so you can see how it looks once the dry brushing is totally finished. As you can see, I've done all the horns and everything else, just using the same two paints as I used before. But I just wanted to show you how it looks before the ink wash, and you can see how much dry brushing I have actually done on the miniature. I've made sure that all the spines and all the horns have got a nice bright peak to each one. So that's how the dry brushing is finished on the completed miniature for the dry brushing stage, added onto the face and the head. I just wanted to quickly show you that before I did the ink washes. So now I'll do the ink washes, and I will come back once the ink washes have been applied. The ink wash has been applied now. I used a black ink wash from MSP for the base, and I used the brown ink wash from MSP to cover the whole miniature. Now I'm still waiting on this to dry a little bit, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint all the tips on the claws in Dragon Black by MSP. I'm going to paint in the eye, and then paint the teeth black as well, and then I'll come back. We'll start doing the dry brushing on the base and the finishing highlights on the actual miniature. But that ink wash, the brown ink wash that I used, that has really made all the colours tone down a bit and blend in with the rest of the miniature, and it all looks part of how it should look now. Very happy so far. Now all I need to do is start highlighting the other areas, but I'll get my claws done now, and I'll come back once I've done that part. So we're coming up to the last part now, and that is to get the base done. I've done the eyes, and I've had the tongue as well. For the eyes I used Dragon White by MSP, and I used some Dragon Black by MSP. All I did was gave 2 coats of Dragon White to the eye, and then I added a dot for the pupil, and I went round the whole eye with the Dragon Black to emphasize the white. And with the tongue I used Maggot White by MSP because that's got a hint of green in the colour, and then I just went over with a light ink wash for the tongue. So now I'm going to be doing the base. Now for the base I am going to be dry brushing Bleached Linen by MSP, followed by Meadow Green by MSP. The green will be for highlighting the rocks. So the first thing we're going to do is I am going to fly around the base and get the dry brushing done nice and quick. So we're going all over the rocks. Boom, boom, boom. This will just highlight all the rocks and the highest details, and it's a fantastic and easy way to make the miniature look amazing. Don't need much, and it doesn't take long, so we're just going to fly around. Simple as that, and that just brings out all the definition of all your rocks and stones and pebbles. Now we're going straight into the Meadow Green, and the way we add the Meadow Green is by going around all the bottom areas of the miniature, just like mosswood in real life grow from the bottom, and you see all the parts going up the structures of the rocks. So we try to get it at the lowest point and just bring it up a touch onto the rocks. And it's like I said to you before many times, just if you're confused or about actually getting some effects for rocks. Just have a look on Google. Just look at the stonework on Google and you'll find loads and loads of pictures of old houses and rocks, and it's the best way to learn where all the mould lines are and all the dirt is, and it's always at the bottom of your miniature. So the bottom of the miniature, on anywhere on walls, trees, you always start from the bottom, and that'll be your darkest point. And as the tree or the wall gets higher and higher, it will get lighter and lighter. So I always like to add the base with darkness at the bottom. I'll add a bit more to the rocks, and to me that's enough. Don't need much more. You can overdo it, but just a quick round the base and you're done. Now all I need to do is add some flocking, maybe a bit of grass, a couple of shrubs, and that base will be done. Now what's next is I will be painting around the rim of the base with dragon black. I'll add my flocking, I'll add a few more highlights to the horns, but I'll come back and I'll show you the finished miniature. So here we have the finished miniature. I've done all the base now. I've added some flocking to the base with some little leaves and some of these shrubs that you just stick on around the base. The eyes and the mouth and the teeth, I've added a gloss varnish just to finish them off and give them a bit of shine, bit of moisture. And also on the rest of the miniature, I have just highlighted the tips of each one of these with the same green, the dungeon slime, just on the tips of all the horns and on the back there, and that works perfectly for me. I'm very happy how this turned out. And there we are. It's a simple paint and totally acceptable for your tabletop games. There we are. So let me show you what's for next week. Next week's paint is Dances with Dragons. These are 2 dragons in a nice fighting pose or playing pose, depending on how you see it. It comes with a beautiful base, which I can't wait to mount on a base boss base. This I have been looking forward to painting for quite some time. I received this with my Bones 4 Kickstarter, and it is beautiful. It's not stuck together, so it might fall apart when I give you a little 360. But this is next week's paint. 2 dragons on a rock. Awesome, absolutely beautiful. I don't think this can be used in a game, but as a display piece, absolutely beautiful. Yes, next week, Dances with Dragons. Absolutely fantastic. So please come join the fun. So if you enjoy what I'm doing, then please sub to the channel. If you want to support the channel, then please become a patron. All patrons are added to the end credits of all my videos. So until next time.
Goodbye, my fellow ones. Sleep well. Dream of evil paintbrushes.